Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome to the GMB channel. Hope you will enjoy our video. Before we begin, hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Here is the news title. EU countries zero refugee, drive brings asylum claims to record low in lesson for Starmer. The small European nation passed less than 900 asylum applications last year, compared to more than 50,000 in the UK. Sir Keir Starmer could look to one European nation for inspiration after the country launched a crackdown on asylum applications, bringing them to a historic low of just 860 last year. Denmark, like the UK, currently has a left-of-center government, but increasing pressure from the migration crisis gripping Europe has meant Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen has taken tough action on arrivals seen as a traditionally more right-of-center issue. Ms. Frederiksen has confronted her own country's problems with overwhelming asylum applications by building on the work of previous Danish administrations. And since 2015, the number of asylum bids granted has dropped by 88.4% as part of the nation's zero refugee policy. According to the Home Office, in the UK for the year ending September 2024, 52,739 people were granted refugee protection or other leave at initial decision, over a third more than in the previous year, which was 39,232. In a statement, Ms. Frederiksen's immigration minister, Kjær Dybvad Bek, called the latest figure for Denmark historic, adding, "Last year, authorities granted the smallest number of residency permits to asylum seekers that we have seen in recent years." And speaking previously on immigration, Mr. Dybvad Bek said, "I would say 80 to 85% agree that on the one hand we cannot accept an endless number of refugees, and on the other, we are of course part of international conventions, human rights, refugees' rights, and we strictly have to respect these as well." Ms. Frederiksen has implemented a number of migration control measures since she was elected in 2019. She had previously failed to win an election in 2015, amid growing discontent over immigration. However, the Danish Prime Minister said she recognized unchecked asylum applications and immigration was an issue for left-wing, working-class voters. She told the Financial Times last year, Denmark had enacted a sweeping removal of residency permits for Syrian refugees after a spike in crime. She said, "An unsafe society is always a bigger challenge for people without a lot of opportunities. If you have the money, you will always be able to defend yourself." Denmark, which has a population of just under 6 million, also introduced an anti-ghetto law aimed at reducing the number of non-Western residents in certain areas by 30% by 2030. Since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister, more than 25,000 migrants have been detected crossing the English Channel, according to provisional Home Office data. A total of 240 people made the journey in 4 boats on Saturday, taking the provisional total for 2025 to date to 1,193, according to the data. This brings the total provisional number of migrants to have crossed the Channel since Sir Keir Starmer became Prime Minister to 25,135. Saturday's provisional figure was the second highest in 2025, with 260 migrants detected crossing the Channel on January 13th. A total of 36,816 people crossed the English Channel in 2024. Last year's arrivals jumped by 25% from the 29,437 who arrived in 2023, according to the Home Office, but dropped by 20% on the record, 45,774 arrivals in 2022. A Home Office spokesperson said, "We all want to end dangerous small boat crossings, which threaten lives and undermine our border security. The people smuggling gangs do not care if the vulnerable people they exploit live or die, as long as they pay. We will stop at nothing to dismantle their business models and bring them failure to deport crooks slammed as sick, and shows judges are protecting pedophiles. Radical change to human rights law is needed to enable dangerous foreign criminals to be removed from Britain," argued MP Chris Philp. The failure to deport a convicted child sex offender due to supposed risks to his human rights has been branded sick by Shadow Home Secretary Chris Philp as he accused judges of protecting pedophiles instead of children. Philp took to social media to voice his outrage, warning the decision to not deport a Zimbabwean national convicted of child sex offenses was sick. He said, "Immigration judges have twisted the meaning of ECHR articles to protect pedophiles instead of children. This must end. We need to be able to remove dangerous foreign criminals and those here illegally. Radical change to human rights law is needed." Identified only as RC, the sex offender was spared deportation after an immigration judge ruled that sending him back to his home country would violate his human rights. The tribunal, presided over by Judge Sarah Pinder, found that the individual, who is autistic, deaf, and openly gay, would face substantial hostility in Zimbabwe, where authorities have been accused of persecuting LGBTQ+ individuals. Despite the Home Office's efforts to remove him, the judge ruled that deportation would breach Article 3 of the European Convention on Human Rights, ECHR, which prohibits torture and inhuman or degrading treatment. The Conservative MP's remarks have added fuel to the growing demands for tougher immigration policies. The controversy, first reported by The Telegraph, comes amid mounting frustration over the UK's ability to remove foreign criminals and illegal migrants, with repeated legal challenges delaying or blocking deportations. Speaking in January, Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer has insisted that the government is making progress on removals, pointing to record numbers of deportations in recent months. He said, "I'm really pleased that the figures for the last 6 months show record numbers of people being returned, 16,400 people who should not be in the UK. However, critics argue that high-profile cases like this undermine public trust in the system. RC, who has spent over 5 years in prison for child sex offenses, remains in the UK following the tribunal's ruling. The ruling is expected to fuel further debate on human rights law and judicial interpretations of the ECHR, with calls for urgent reform growing louder within Conservative ranks," a Home Office spokesman told Express. UK, "We are rigorously fighting this case. Foreign nationals who commit crime should be in no doubt that we will do everything to make sure they are not free on Britain's streets, including removal from the UK at the earliest possible opportunity. We remain resolute in our commitment to ensuring there are no barriers to deport foreign criminals, as it is in the public interest for these people to be Zero removed refugee swiftly. Policy, a blueprint for asylum reduction, and a lesson for Starmer." Introduction. Denmark's recent asylum policy has caught international attention for its remarkable reduction in asylum applications. The country granted just 860 asylum applications in 2024, a sharp contrast to the UK's 52,739. Under Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen's leadership, Denmark has pursued stringent migration controls that have resulted in a significant drop in the number of asylum seekers receiving residency. This article examines Denmark's approach, its implications, and whether similar policies could be viable under UK Prime Minister Sir Keir Starmer. Denmark's asylum policy. A historic shift. Denmark, a nation of under 6 million people, has steadily tightened its asylum policies since 2015. While traditionally considered a progressive country, the Danish government has implemented stringent measures to control migration and asylum applications. Prime Minister Mette Frederiksen, who has led the Social Democrats since 2019, has continued policies initiated by previous administrations to restrict asylum applications. The result has been a nearly 90% drop in approved applications over the past decade. According to Immigration Minister Kari Dybvad Bek, 2024's figures were the lowest in recent history, marking a historic success for Denmark's immigration control efforts. Key elements of Denmark's zero refugee policy. Denmark's drastic reduction in asylum applications stems from a series of policy shifts, including revoking residency permits. Denmark has aggressively re-evaluated residency permits, particularly those granted to Syrian refugees. The government argued that certain regions in Syria had become safe enough for refugees to return, leading to the withdrawal of many residence permits. Tighter border controls. Stricter border surveillance has limited the entry of asylum seekers. Denmark has implemented agreements with neighboring countries to manage migrant movements more effectively. Third country. Processing centers. Denmark has explored outsourcing asylum processing to third countries such as Rwanda. The goal is to prevent asylum seekers from settling in Denmark by processing claims outside Europe. Anti-ghetto legislation. The Danish government passed laws aimed at reducing the proportion of non-Western residents in certain neighborhoods by 30% by 2030. This policy reflects broader concerns about social integration and crime rates among immigrant populations. Tougher employment requirements. Asylum seekers and refugees must meet strict employment and integration criteria to maintain their resident status. Welfare benefits are tied to active participation in the labor market, discouraging dependency on state support. Impact on migration and public opinion. Denmark's policies have had a profound impact on migration trends. The number of successful asylum claims has plummeted. The country has seen a decline in new arrivals, discouraging irregular migration routes. Public opinion in Denmark has largely supported these measures, with polls indicating that 80 to 85% of the population agrees with controlled migration policies. However, the policies have drawn criticism from human rights organizations and the European Union, with concerns raised about Denmark's adherence to international refugee conventions. Could the UK adopt a similar approach? Sir Keir Starmer's government faces mounting pressure to address the UK's asylum challenges, particularly with the increasing number of migrants crossing the English Channel. Since taking office, over 25,000 people have made the journey, raising concerns about border security and asylum processing backlogs. Challenges of implementing Denmark's approach in the UK. Legal constraints. The UK is bound by international human rights agreements, which could make revoking residency permits more difficult. Scale of migration. The UK's asylum numbers far exceed Denmark's, making implementation of a similar policy more complex. Public and political opposition. The Labour Party's voter base includes pro-migration advocates, making a strict asylum policy politically contentious. Potential policy adjustments. Despite these challenges, the UK could consider strengthening border security and implementing offshore asylum processing centers, introducing stricter employment conditions for asylum seekers, revisiting residency permit policies to ensure alignment with security and integration goals. Conclusion: Denmark's success in drastically reducing asylum applications presents an intriguing case study for the UK. While replicating the exact approach may not be feasible due to legal and political differences, elements of Denmark's policy, such as third country processing. So, what do you guys think about this update? Let me know in the comment below. If you like my video, please press like button and subscribe for more. Hope I'll see you in next video.